BigPicture is a project portfolio management tool which allows you to get a bigger picture on your Jira projects in multiple quantities, or it can give you an overview of a subset of your project or on a specific chunk of your data in the Jira. So the starting point of working with BigPicture is the Program Manager, which is accessible via the top drop-down Program Manager link. While in the Program Manager, you will see every existing program to which you have permissions to. Each program can be in one of three statuses. This is the new, started, or the closed status. The Program Manager can also be viewed in a list mode, where you will see the current status, whether a program is your favorite one, the program name, start and end date, program leader, which is a Jira user who has full administrative permissions to this program, and list of available modules. This list is configurable and can be adjusted based on your needs. If you have administrative rights to the program, you will also see the link to its configuration. This overview can be filtered based on any of these attributes, such as status, being a favorite program of ours, or just simply viewing all programs and searching them by text. So to start your journey with BigPicture, you always create a new program. The process of creating a new program consists of selecting maybe existing program, which will be used for some pre-configured value. Then you select the program name, the avatar of your program, program leader. By default, it will be you, just so that you have full access to it after you configure it. Start and end date. Those two dates are managed manually, and they are used for showing you a percentage of completion based on time. You can also find a preset of permissions. And the next step would be the scope of the data. Here you will find possibilities to include either any number of boards, Jira Agile boards that is, or any number of filters from your Jira, or any number of projects. And to make it more interesting, you can combine all of this. By combining it, you will be able to include more and more data in your overview. But less is more in general, and when starting working with BigPicture, I recommend basing your programs only on projects and single projects. That is, just to grasp how the functionality of BigPicture is integrated with Jira. At the bottom, I also invite you to observe this indicator, which will show you how many tickets effectively will land in your program. Last but not least, there is an option to filter down the tickets. So from 600, we can go to 42, the most juicy ones, epics, which is filtered by type equal epic. Then we have the configuration part. This is the first step configuration, where you will be able to select which modules would you like to use, such as roadmap, board, scope. And the rule of thumb here is to start with the essential ones, with the ones that you need the most, because there is no problem in adding more after you create the program. Here we have a pleasure to see board 2.0 version, which is still in beta. It's not released yet. And I will show you a short glimpse of it. Advanced configuration has one very important detail. This is the scope context user. The scope context user is something that I call a data privacy user. This is because whatever permissions are assigned to this user, whether it's me or Albingo Verando, or the administrator. Each Jira user has some permissions assigned to them in Jira. This is done by a permission scheme in Jira projects. And whichever permissions are granted upon this person, they will be used as eyes, as access of this program into Jira. So it's very important. And usually when you have a situation where you stop and think, oh, some of the data is missing, then that would be a good moment to visit the scope context user and make sure that this user is set correctly and that this user has full permissions to the data that you want to view. Then we have some Gantt pre-configurations, the data aggregation and task mode. Data aggregation is a preset of synchronization, or how I call it, structurization options. Standard, agile, or automatic, manual, which is the best place to start, since no automation will be forced upon you and you will be able to configure it from scratch. Auto bottom up is the standard approach of organizing the parent-child structure, which is the work breakdown structure, which you will see in a second on the Gantt chart. It directly impacts how task dependencies are reflected on the Gantt chart. But for purpose of this demo, I will use one of existing programs. One other hint which I can give you is that there is also the option to clone existing program. This is especially useful for cloning big sets of Jira issues between projects. The business idea behind it is that whenever you have a template project, which you will repeat multiple times in the future, then the preferred way to do it is to create a program based on it, clone the program. This will effectively bulk clone all of the tickets for you and paste them into a new project. Evaluate with sample data is something which will create 20 pre-configured tickets in your Jira instance. This is a good way to start because all of the modules will be already configured. You will see some nice data on each module, and it will take you in some way into the future and see how BigPicture could work in full power. So for the purpose of this demo, let's open the Gantt module in the waterfall program. Here in this overview, we can see our program's Gantt. And whenever you first time visit the BigPicture, you will see a tour guide which will take you through each step. And I do recommend taking each step and reading the notes that are hidden in there because they will explain what each button can be used for. It's a very good starting point. So what we have in case of this small waterfall project is we have a couple of items which are in the scope, which are actual Jira issues. Then we have a couple of items which are external authority approval process, which in fact is not a Jira issue. It does not exist in Jira. But in this case, it is an artificial task. Artificial task in the meaning that for Jira, it does not exist, but you can still see it on the Gantt. It is stored in this program's data, and it's visible in the Gantt chart, only on this Gantt. The Gantt has a real-time synchronization between the Jira and the Gantt timeline. And by real-time synchronization, I mean that if I reschedule this task to a duration of 1 week, and by using the detail view, I can check its start and end date, we will see that BigPicture is working on 2 specific custom fields. This is start date, which is automatically created on a Jira issue after you install BigPicture. start date, and end date, which is also created automatically upon the installation of BigPicture. So having the start date, on 26th and end date on 30th, it is corresponding with the timeline on the Gantt chart. So if I move manually or extend the time needed to execute this task, let me just switch the way that it's out, so bottom up. And by the way, the task modes, so how the schedule is adjusted automatically based on the data, is visible in the last column. This is the icon for the bottom up. Top down, manual, and lock are the options. So bottom up means that whenever a child changes, which is the bottom part, the parent should change as well. Another thing which you can observe on this Gantt chart is that between some of the tickets, there are dependencies. And dependencies can be created between Jira issues, between artificial tasks, and between milestones, which are visually represented on the Gantt chart. And the milestone is a different type of the task, which in fact underneath is a regular Jira issue or an artificial task. And creating milestone will assist you in viewing how your plan is going. And by default, any dependency which you have created will be as soon as possible, which means that whatever the lag time is defined for this dependency, it will be kept at all times. And depending on where you start to drag, this would be the end to start, or end to end, or another way, start to start, and start to end. And creation of these dependencies is actually reflected in the Jira itself. In the issue link section, we can see that ticket gather requirements from authorities has to be done after 17 and before 20, which has to be done after 17, which is now not visible, and before the 20th. And the other way to quickly check what dependencies are connected to a Gantt task is to click on it in this overview. This will show you 3 sections. Programs involved, which will list all the BigPicture programs where this Jira issue exists. Inbound links, all of the tickets which have a dependency incoming to this link. So to explain this more, this is an inbound link for water 18. But for water 19, it is an outbound link. And the general rule is that inbound links can push you and pull you around. So seeing a number in the inbound links means that 2 tickets can push or pull me. On the other hand, outbound links, this indicates how many other Jira issues will be pushed if I make change to this task. So 2 of tickets will be changed, and we have the result right here. So we have a question in chat. This is different from Big Gantt. Actually, it's not. Basically, Big Gantt consists of the Gantt module, which is one-to-one, exactly as in BigPicture. All the links, functionalities from what I am showing you exist in the Big Gantt. Big Gantt also has a small chunk of resources coming from BigPicture, and the main difference is that BigPicture has many more modules. Then we have another question. Basic data, does the start and end date get updated after the project plan is updated? Yes. And by project plan is updated, I mean that some of the tickets or some items on the project plan are drag and dropped. Yes, it happens immediately. So if I now drop it, I have just dropped it, it has went to the Jira, and the plan is updated in the overview. The start and end date is updated on corresponding Jira issues. So it's a real-time synchronization between the overview, visual overview, and start date and the end date custom field. Okay. So we have covered the right side of the Gantt. It's visual. You can also change the picture to make it even a bigger picture, because you can see the bird's eye view. The bird's eye view is an extreme overview where you can see multiple years. I can see 4 years of planning over here. The more tickets you have, the more congested it is. But thanks to the work breakdown structure operations of collapsing, if you want to see the highest levels in your work breakdown structure, then in the view, or rather data, you can collapse all. And in this case, we have only one project to manage. And collapsing all will show us the status of this project, including its progress percentage-wise based on statuses. It's 57% in progress, 29 to do, 14 done. This is status-wise, this is quantitatively. Then we have the progress based on the time tracking. It's 52%. So looking at the quantity of tickets, we have 14% done. Looking at the effort, we have 52% done. There is the discrepancy, there is the different values, because this is based on the quantity of the items. And this is based on the effort. Effort meaning the days, weeks, hours, months, which are estimated in the original estimate field and the remaining estimate field. To again see it in full power, we will expand all and see every item. And if you work with the Gantt on everyday basis, I would recommend going to the compact mode, because it shows you the most information on one screen. But if you are doing any type of presentation and you want to make the items larger, then the higher, wide, or normal modes can come in with help, if you even combine it with some shortcuts. So one other recommendation which I can give you is that shortcuts are available, and they can be viewed after you press Shift and question mark. Here you will find the operations on the structure and the view options, X and Z. Pressing X hides the task list. It's full-on Gantt chart now. Z goes even deeper, and now we have a full immersion. Even though items are hidden on the left side, with the keyboard shortcuts, you can still operate it, you can still expand it, collapse it, to see more or less data. This is the best way to present it. Z and X brings it back to the operational mode. And anything between will zoom in, but the quarterly overview is the furthest perspective where you still can differentiate between different days on the plan. So what we have on the left side is a set of columns, which technically we call Gantt column views. Gantt column views are sets of views between which you can switch. For example, here in the time tracking overview, you can quickly have a grasp on how much was originally estimated to be done, 19 weeks, and what is the remaining work. And both of these values are used for this percentage of completion calculation. And the columns can be managed, which means that you can individually select which columns should be there. Oh, no remaining, let's remove this. And which should not. Icon key, summary, description, this is the base set. I very much like to add the status in there. But adding the status will show you the individual status of each item. What it will not show you is the roll-up of the statuses. So you can see we have in progress item, to-do item, and so on. But we have created our breakdown structure. We have used artificial tasks to group items into architecture, testing, all these phases, all these areas. And this can be used for aggregating the data. I invite you to visit the Customize Column icon. Here in the aggregation section, you have an option to select Children by Status categories. Save. And the effect is that everything will be summed up, rolled up. So if you remember those percentages which were shown here previously, these are quantities: 2 done, 4 to do, 8 in progress. So from this level, you can create new Jira issues, Jira task, artificial tasks, which reside only on the Gantt chart. Subtasks, if your project has subtask enabled, there is the Jira subtask option or Gantt subtask, which will just indent it for you. In the data, you can reorganize your things. This is like sorting, but it will persist. After you sort it, it will stay there. Grouping is another interesting functionality. And this is because it allows you to do a multi-level grouping. This is the effect of grouping, which is all of the tickets and corresponding statuses are now grouped. More than that, you still have access to the plan. So you can see how those groups are combined together and how do they look like on the overview. From the data dropdown, you can also collapse and expand all. I do recommend collapsing it all after you have used a grouping option. But what's interesting about the grouping, what's very special about it, is that you can group by 2 attributes. For example, let's group it by status and by assignee. In this order, first status, then by assignee. Okay, let it think, collapse it all. And first, we have groups by statuses. Then we have groups by assignees. So for each person, we can see all the in-progress tasks. But if we want to check the backlog, we also have it grouped. One unassigned to do, Jerome and Albingo. 1 ticket. To turn it off, uncheck the boxes. Here you can also create baselines. Baseline is a snapshot of your Gantt chart. After it is created, you'll have to show it. And even showing it might be a little bit confusing because at first glance, you don't see the effect. But believe me, the effect is there, but it's underneath the current state. If I drag it over, which simulates delaying the plan, you will see the ghost. And the ghost is the baseline which was created. It's more visible on the parent tasks because underneath you can see this great outline. And what you can observe now is the critical path. Critical path is calculated in a very special way in the big picture. It basically shows you the tasks which directly influence the end of the whole schedule. Sometimes it might not be a path. Sometimes it's just a single task or a group of tasks. Just like in this case. This water 15 task is on the critical path because it's furthest to the right. If things change and now this is getting delayed, now this is on the critical path. If you combine it with dependencies, you can actually generate a critical path. The only thing which you need is 2 tickets which are linked together and to start, and there is no lag time between them. In such situations, both of the tickets will become on the critical path. In bulk, you can change the task modes, auto, bottom up, top down. Top down means that the children have to adjust to the parent, because you first have the parent, then the children are, well, spreading across the parent. And auto, bottom up means that you have the stories, and then you group them into epics. And you want to see the epic based on the stories. This is the bottom-up approach. For example, in the view, I have covered the column views layout. Let's go back to the normal one. Well, it's just regular. You can show the task structure, which is the left side. Markers. If you show the markers, the timeline becomes active. And it allows you then to add new markers, which will be blue. There is also an automatic marker which is floating around somewhere here. Here it is. This is the now marker. It's gradually passing on the day 26th. And it's always there. It will be visible. It will show you the now. Cadences is an integration point between the board module and the Gantt module. And then basically, if you have any cadences on the board, it will show you those lanes, those columns colored. In this case, we have no cadences. Then we have the option to color by status. Now it's turned on, which means that if something changes the status. Oh, and another tip. If you press dot on the keyboard and you beforehand you mark the task, you will start doing actions in the context of this task. So now I can mark the picking and executing the right model with this resolution done. And here on the visual side, the ticket became green because the color is taken from the status. There is an alternative where you can disable coloring by status and you can now color it your own way. Detail view as a picture-in-picture for viewing the Jira issue directly instead of the Gantt chart, and smart labeling is something that can simplify your Gantt overview. Now, without the labels and without the baselines, it's a very, very clear and neat Gantt chart. Resources is an integration point between BigPicture Resources module and the Gantt chart, and it shows you next to the Gantt how people are allocated. This is allocation based on original estimate. Export, which is available after installing Big Template add-on, which is a separate add-on. Changes of scale. There are also manual operations which can be done on the structure. They can be done either by clicking these items over here. Oh, here we have a component, but here we can move it. Also a component, I see. And we also assist you. Assist you in a way that if you have defined some automated rules that structurize your Gantt chart. And if you, for some reason, start doing manual operations which are not compliant with those rules, we will basically show you a hint that the synchronization of this program says the project structure, subtask, and component structure is automatically done for you. So displacement of the task, gather external opinions, is not coincidental. Architecture is a component on this ticket, components architecture, and this is why it automatically landed under the architecture task. If I want to do it other way, then it's not consistent with the Jira data, so we will revert change and let you know that it's against the automated rules. But in case there is some room for structurization, you will be able to select a task and move it in the structure, either by selecting and using the indent or outdent operations, or by using shortcuts. Shift right does indent, shift left does outdent. Then we have quick filters, and I very much recommend using quick filters. This is because quick filters are JQL filters, which are combined with the overview of the Gantt chart. So if you want to focus and see how milestones are doing, you can do so by creating a quick filter for milestones. And even if you favorite a quick filter, it becomes a button, so it's easier to access it. In case you have a lot of quick filters, you can search them. There's also a possibility to focus on a specific month or time period, whatever is the preference. So if I would like to focus on January and February, I would set the dates in those two date pickers, and this would effectively show me only January and February. This is also useful when combined with exporting the Gantt to the PDF format with the help of BigTemplate add-on. So another question, can you import a project plan from Excel into the Big Gantt instead of using one of the existing project plans? So the import facilities are not part of the Big Gantt or BigPicture. Import facilities are part of the BigTemplate add-on, which allows you to export and import items. We have both the server and the cloud version, and they on their own have their own functionalities, but when installed, they can unlock more potential in BigPicture. So another question, how do you define the status into in progress, done, and to do? Is it part of the configuration? Well, this is part of the Jira workflow configuration. So Jira project configuration decides which statuses are available and what are possible transitions. The last item which I want to cover on the Gantt is the quick search bar. It can be locked so that it doesn't escape. And now, by default, you will search by text. Anything that has gathered in the summary, description, comments will be found, will be shown on the Gantt. The alternative is to go into JQL mode. Here you can type in any JQL, and it will filter down the tickets which you can see. Now I'm seeing only the subtasks, but you will not see only the subtasks on the overview. You'll see those grayed out items which are not subtasks, but they are shown to you so that you are aware of the overall work breakdown structure, the bigger picture. So in big picture, there is no costs or financial module. Yeah, we only can show you the effort which was estimated. So original estimate story points, they can be summed up, but there is no on a user or on a role basis cost for an hour. And how to set up a status? Well, it's fully Jira configuration. So on a Jira project configuration page, you have the section for workflows, for workflow scheme, and there you define the workflows. It's not configurable in BigPicture at all. All right, so we have covered the Gantt module. Then we will step into the resources module, and the timeline is exactly the same as on the Gantt chart module, which means that the plan which we have created, the master plan, will have its effect on this overview, but in a slightly different form. Everything here is grouped by assignee field. But at the same time, the scope is exactly the same. So, next step for big picture is to show you whether somebody's over-allocated, under-allocated, or what's the status in general. Oh, too far. In February. So, on an example of this item, for example, this is a ticket which has an original estimate 1 week, 4 days. Remaining 1 week, logged work 1 day. By default, BigPicture focuses on the original estimate, when the original estimate is 1 week, 4 days. It means that ideally this person needs 1 week and 4 days to finish the task on time. And the way that BigPicture behaves on this module is it multiplies the effort, or it divides the effort, which is original estimate, by the duration. Duration is taken from the plan. So for example, now the duration is 4 days, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Now the duration is 1 week, 4 days. And still something is not quite right. This is because the ticket is assigned to Eileen Tacorino. And Eileen Tacorino is available 4 hours on Monday, 4 hours on Friday, and 8 hours for the rest of the days. Which means that even though the calculation says she has to work 8 hours per day, it will not fully work for her because she's working 24 plus 8, 32 hours. But weekly, it's more than that. And to see that, we will switch to aggregation weekly, and then we will see that she's weekly available 32 hours. So we will have to spread it across more days, and the numbers will go down because she has more time now, and she will feel more comfortable and adjusted. So now we can see exactly how many hours per week she has to work to finish the task. And it's one task. In case of multiple, it is just summed up. And it's very easy to detect that, oh, if I would give her also this, then she's overloaded. I have to give it to someone else. I have to find someone. The alternative is for resources to look at the remaining estimate or story points instead of original estimate. But the idea is exactly the same. We divide equally the effort over the duration. So the question also about the tempo together. In BigPicture Enterprise only, there is an integration with Tempo, which synchronizes BigPicture teams, resources, workload plans, and holiday plans to BigPicture, which helps you in the resource management. But still, BigPicture has no cost management. For that purpose, the Tempo budgets would be a very good choice. And we basically have no control over the costs or over the effort or over any logged work or other this and that regarding the effort or cost. BigPicture only reacts to the data which is set up in Jira, and we sum it up, aggregate it, and display it in a nice form. Tempo budgets has much more control over rates and other aspects of the cost management. Okay. Resources by default work in the individuals overview, but they can also work in teams overview. And teams is a slightly different story. So to get into that, let me tell you more about the teams. Teams is a big picture concept. We have two types of teams, the local ones, which are available only in a program. You create them once, you use them in a program, and they cannot be reused anymore in other areas, in other programs. And whenever adding a new person to the team, you define when this person joins the team, what is the percentage of availability, and then there she goes. For situations where somebody will leave the team at a known date, please just put in availability 0 and she becomes unavailable. And this has direct impact on the capacity of the team. Because if I have the Android team, we have 0 hours of capacity. This is the capacity row. And this is because Albingo is joining the team on May 25th. So if we jump to the May, we'll see that no tasks are actually planned for that space. So there is nothing to manage because every item in the scope of this program is happening in February 2019. But there we have also global teams. Global teams are managed globally by BigPicture Administrator, and they can be reused once created. So one other important detail of a team is its code. The code is used for integrating with Jira. And how, you may ask? Well, basically, whenever you have a task, and let's just say that it's not assigned to anyone, it's unassigned, BigPicture allows you to assign it to the team first without assigning a person to it. Then what we have to do to assign it to a team is drag and drop it to the team analysis row. And let's say they will have to do it here. Everything is in green, so they are not overloaded. And the effect on the Jira issue is that custom field will be set to the value of the team code. It's not the team name, it's the team code. And it's analysis, which is the team code of this team. The alternative configuration, the configuration which is set up by default, is that BigPicture will use the labels in such fashion. Team #analysis. This is the default behavior, but to make it more structured in your Jira data, there is the possibility to switch it to the custom field of type select, list, single choice. And the difference between the individuals and the teams is that here rows are teams, and the team has a capacity which is combined capacity of all of the members. Individuals, they all speak on their own. With Big Template, there is a possibility to export this overview to Excel with all the numbers. And you can show multiple things. You can hide the tasks just to focus on the numbers, or you can show the remaining capacity. This will not show you how many hours are allocated. This will show you how many hours are missing. Here we are missing 4 hours, 13.7. And there is also the possibility to show the capacity. This shows you this gray row where you see numbers which show you what is the possibility to fill it up to. Showing warnings will do some type of assistance for you. Depending on the situation, it will either mention that there is no estimate, or the task assigned to the ticket, the team which is assigned to the ticket has no assignee which is assigned to this ticket. So Albingo is not in the team analysis. So there is the warning. And it basically assists you. Here you have possibilities to switch between different months. And in case for performance reasons, we limit the number of tasks which you can see. And if you happen to be in that situation, we'll show you a button which will allow you to load more and show more data. All of the quick filters still work on the resources. That's why I always recommend using them and remembering about them. We have the basics, the Gantt and resources module. The scope module is a more flexible, more configurable left side of the Gantt chart, to say it easy. It only takes care of showing you what is the scope of the project. It does not mention anything about the timeline, and it gives you a very easy way to add new fields to this overview. Just with few clicks, you can show more things. You can change the way that things are summed up, some without the parent, for example, if you want to exclude the parent. And then it allows you to save it very, very easily and quickly. And again, quick filters do work here, so I recommend using them. The last from the most classical modules is the risk matrix. Risk matrix allows you to basically visualize your risks. It is also configurable. So the data which you can see on each risk card is configurable. So now we can see start date, end date, we can see time progress, we can see some estimate, we can see the status, we can see the summary, but this is all configurable, and you will be able to navigate through these risks on a presentation in such fashion. The risk matrix is integrated with Jira, so whenever you drag and drop an item, 2 custom fields will be affected. Risk probability, risk consequence. High, almost none. They correspond exactly to the position. Consequence high, probability almost none. If you drag and drop it in different place, it goes straight into Jira, medium, medium. And it's a very good place to have a heat map of what is the most urgent, what is the most problematic, where is the highest risk. It does not track any data about the risk itself. It only visualizes it for you. Underneath, these are regular Jira issues. And below the risk matrix, you will find the registry, which is a table where Once again, you can add any type of column where something is due, for example. There is no limit. The only limit is the data that you have in Jira. And again, quick filters do work here. So I do recommend combining this, because if you have too much data, the one way to do it would be to go into compact mode, but then you lose sight of the additional data. Or using milestones to focus on specific groups of tickets. So what we have left is two modules, which is the board module, and this is the Scrum of Scrums module. In the past, long time ago, it was called a roadmap, but now we have renamed it to the board, and roadmap is something completely new. This is the Scrum of Scrums because you can see multiple teams and their work on this overview. If you have too much to see, you can hide the timeline, which is interactive, and it shows you the rhythm of your project. And to see more tickets, to see more items in the scope. On the board, we operate on cadences, which are time boxes. But because they are time boxes, they have no data themselves. So you can map Jira Agile sprints. By managing the board, you are able to select any sprint that you have in Jira and map it to a cell on this overview. And this is a true Scrum of Scrums. So Team Android has its own line of sprints. Smartwatch has its own line of sprints. Web has its own line, and they all work in parallel. But the power of this module is that you can define dependencies here. Dependencies which will show you the cross-team dependencies. Additionally, you can define the capacity of each sprint, of each cadence, and then track the allocation for all of your teams. Two places which can help you in the planning, these are the program and cadence backlog. Program backlog has all the items which have no sprint assigned yet. Cadence backlog are the items with the sprint assigned, but without any specific team assigned to it. So for example, here we have Team Android, Team and it's their sprint 4. But if plans changed, we have to do it earlier. Team Android sprint 3 is automatically set because we did a drag and drop on our team board. And the same schedule is actually used on the roadmap. But the roadmap goes one level higher. It does not focus on specific epics or stories. It's not the main focus. The main focus is to see whether our objectives have failed or whether we have accomplished them and which iteration is in progress. And since this is a Scrum of Scrums, we have one product which has this long increment ongoing. These are the objectives to deliver for all of the teams, and each team has their own individual objectives to deliver. And this is the place to check. Check if it's completed, check if we are done with the time and we have failed, or if we abandon an item. You can import here a Jira issue or just type it in as you go. No watches. Or type it in as an objective. It will also be created. Last but not least is the administration module. In this module, you manage the resources which are used in BigPicture. You manage their workload plans, which are weekly, hourly plans of how many hours per day, and to sum it up, per week they work. Holiday plans which should be used only for bank official holidays. This is because they should be used for large groups of people. And for individual holidays, it would not work because you would have to reproduce all of the holidays again and again. But what's important is that you can add two types of holidays: floating ones, which occur single time, and the fixed ones, which occur every consecutive year. This is the list. These are the fixed ones which are happening every year on the same date, and floating ones. Along with the year, we can see which year they will occur. Skills, so set of skills which can be assigned to the resources. Story point velocity, so how the weekly availability in hours is converted into story points. The configuration of the risk card, so how does it look like in Jira on the risk module. And all of these items are assigned in the resource manager. Skills, workload plans, holiday plans, so bank holidays, and absences. A separate section where you say when somebody is absent and when they are coming back, with a possibility of a comment. And this will influence the capacity of this person on the resources module. We also have an integration point with Jira in form of gadgets. On any Jira dashboard, you can add gadgets which will depict either the Gantt chart, risk matrix, or the program list. This is done via the Add Gadget button. Okay, if you type in big after the Jira fetches all of the add-ons, they will be available: program list, Gantt chart, and risk matrix.